Did you know that one of the world's largest smartphone manufacturers bought 3 Tesla Model Ys, not to drive them, but to take them completely apart, screw by screw and component by component? And they're far from the only ones doing this. Today, I'm going to tell the story of how Tesla has revolutionized the entire automotive industry in a way you may never have thought about, and which means that I can no longer ignore what Tesla has accomplished for the electric car industry, even though I'm not a huge fan of the CEO's actions. Welcome to the Car Podcast. My name is Jacob. So, what's the story? Xiaomi's CEO Li Yun came forward at the end of 2025 and revealed something remarkable. Before they launched their new electric SUV, the YU7, Xiaomi actually bought 3 Tesla Model Ys. They weren't going to be sold or tested on the road. No, they were actually brought home to Xiaomi's engineers, who systematically took apart every single car down to the smallest component. This is called a tear-down analysis, and in principle, it's completely normal for manufacturers to buy competitors' cars to study them. But something highly unusual happened in connection with this. Li Yun openly praises the Tesla Model Y and calls it outstanding, even though Xiaomi's own car now competes directly with it. He even told his audience that if you don't choose a YU7, then consider a Tesla Model Y. Such respect for competitors is rarely seen in the automotive industry. But Xiaomi is not the only one. In fact, some of the world's absolute largest car manufacturers have done exactly the same with these Tesla Model Ys. Who am I talking about here? And what did they discover when they opened up Tesla's cars? Well, among others, Toyota has for Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes, Nissan. Yes, the list is long, but what makes Tesla special is not just that their technology is different, it's that they've solved a fundamental problem that the entire automotive industry has struggled with. How do you build electric cars that are both technologically advanced and economically viable? Let me give you a concrete example. Tesla's gigacasting technology. That is, instead of welding and assembling hundreds of small steel components, Tesla casts their entire chassis in a single piece of aluminum. It might not sound super exciting, but it's actually a revolutionary way to build a car. It reduces production costs, makes the car lighter, and the manufacturing process is significantly faster. And guess what? Toyota, the world's largest car manufacturer, has now also announced that they will use gigacasting in their future electric cars. The same goes for Volvo and several Chinese manufacturers. For example, I can mention that the new Volvo EX60, which is produced up in Sweden, is also made this way with gigacasting. But this isn't just about production methods. There are 3 other areas where Tesla, through teardowns, has changed the entire automotive industry. And now, listen to this. First of all, battery integration. When competitors opened up Tesla's battery packs, they discovered how Tesla maximizes energy density by integrating battery management, cooling, and structure in a way no one had seen before. Today, we see how all new electric cars are trying to imitate this setup of the battery structure in one way or another. Secondly, we have the software architecture. Tesla built cars with a central computer instead of dozens of separate control units. It sounds technical, but the result is that the car can be updated wirelessly, just like your smartphone can today. And now, all the other major car manufacturers are working to copy this approach. Thirdly, we have electronic integration. Tesla drastically reduces the number of cables in their cars through smart planning and clever design. Fewer cables mean lighter cars, fewer potential errors, and lower costs. Cheaper production. Xiaomi specifically studied this part extremely intensively. But let me zoom in on Europe for a moment, because the European car giants, who for decades have seen themselves as the world's best car manufacturers, have had a special journey with Tesla. How do they actually react when this young American startup suddenly shows them how to build an electric car and still make money doing it? The Volkswagen Group is perhaps the most fascinating example. When Herbert Diess, who was CEO at the time, he was incredibly open about the fact that Volkswagen still had a lot to learn from Tesla. Back in 2020, he even arranged an excursion for Volkswagen's top management to Tesla's factory in Grünheide, Germany, before it was even finished being built. Diess publicly stated that Volkswagen was about 10 years behind Tesla on the software side. Forsted, imagine that. One of the world's largest car manufacturers or groups openly admits that a startup company is a decade ahead of them. That takes both courage and humility. But that wasn't all. Naturally, Volkswagen also took apart several Tesla Model 3s. And what did they discover? Well, they found out that Tesla could produce a car in about 10 hours, while Volkswagen was spending over 30 hours on a comparable electric car at that time. That was a wake-up call, and today Volkswagen is working intensively to simplify their production processes and reduce the number of components, and not least, to develop their own software platform from scratch together with the American company Rivian. BMW and Mercedes had a slightly different approach to this. They were more reluctant to publicly admit that they had something to learn from Tesla, at least. But behind the scenes, something else was happening. Both companies bought Teslas and analyzed them thoroughly. Mercedes discovered that Tesla's battery pack used standardized cells in a way that made production cheaper and more flexible. BMW studied Tesla's thermal management system, which keeps the battery at the optimal temperature, something that is critical for performance and durability. What's interesting is that the European premium brands faced a dilemma. They had always competed on this sense of luxury, Honda and traditions. But Tesla showed that consumers were actually willing to give up leather trim number 47 if in return they got over-the-air updates, longer range, faster charging and well-performing cars, all at an even lower price. And then there's Toyota, the world's largest car manufacturer, the king of hybrids, as many say, because they were among the first to introduce hybrids. Technology. In fact, they were early investors in Tesla and collaborated with them back in 2010, after which they went their separate ways. But why, one might ask, and what happened when they returned to Tesla's technology? Toyota's history with Tesla is fascinating and actually a bit ironic, because back in 2010, Toyota invested $50 million in Tesla and collaborated on the electric RAV4, but already in 2014, Toyota pulled the plug and withdrew from this collaboration. Why did they do that? Because at the time, Toyota's management firmly believed that hydrogen cars were the future, not battery-powered electric cars. They went all in on the Mirai, their own hydrogen-powered car. But the world developed differently. The electric car market exploded, while hydrogen cars remained a niche solution. And suddenly, Toyota, the world's largest and most respected car manufacturer, found itself lacking a credible electric vehicle strategy. So what did they do? They went back to the drawing board and back to Tesla, not as a partner this time, but as a student. Toyota dismantled several Tesla models to understand how Tesla had evolved since their collaboration ended, and what they discovered surprised even some of Toyota's most highly regarded engineers. Toyota has always been known for their Toyota Production System, or TPS, and their lean system, which for decades has been the gold standard for efficient car manufacturing. Their just-in-time production and the Kaizen method, which stands for continuous improvement, were part of Toyota's DNA. But when they opened up a Model Y, they saw something that challenged even their own philosophy. Tesla's gigacasting technology didn't just eliminate hundreds of components. It fundamentally changed the way you think about a production flow. Instead of perfecting the assembly of many small parts, Tesla was able to reduce entire sections of the production line. It was, in principle, the Toyota Production System, just reimagined from the ground up. In 2023, Toyota announced that they would implement gigacasting in their cold. This is huge, because when Toyota adopts such a technology, the automotive industry knows that this technology is here to stay. Toyota isn't just confirming that Tesla's approach works. They're giving it their stamp of approval to the entire traditional car industry. But Toyota also learned something else, and that was speed. Tesla's ability to quickly further develop and update software and respond to customer feedback stood in sharp contrast to Toyota's much more conservative and slow but steady approach. Today, Toyota is working to drastically shorten their development time from about 4 to 5 years for a model to under 2 years. So something has definitely changed in Toyota's development process, but also in terms of error rates, I have to admit here in the industry, when I look back at the launch of their BZ4X. But what does this actually mean for you as a consumer? Is this just industry nerd talk that I'm going on about here, or can it actually affect you in terms of what you can buy today? And I have to say, this really does affect you directly, and it's actually great news for you, because the entire car industry learns from the best in the business. And then 3 things happen. Number 1 is that electric cars get better. They get longer range, better software, and smarter features. Competition forces all car manufacturers to innovate. Number 2, prices are dropping. In Denmark, you can now buy an electric car for under 150,000 kroner. In fact, as low as 140,000 kroner. That was unthinkable just a few years ago. When production costs decrease thanks to better technology, manufacturers can sell their products cheaper. Number 3, you get more choices. Xiaomi's YY, which was developed after they studied Tesla, for example, offers 833 kilometers of range at a price of around $35,000. That is significantly cheaper than a Tesla Model Y, but with competitive specs to boot. However, note that the range and price do not match the European market, and the WLTP standard is also not in place yet. There is also an interesting angle here that isn't about technology, it's about culture and respect in a fiercely competitive industry. If you think about it, Li Yun from Xiaomi stands in front of thousands of people, launches his own electric car that's meant to beat Tesla, and spends time praising Tesla's car. The Model Y is truly an outstanding car, he says. That's almost unthinkable in an industry where CEOs usually disparage their competitors. It shows something important. Innovation isn't about hiding what you're doing. Tesla has been remarkably open about their technology. Elon Musk has even released many of Tesla's patents. The philosophy behind this is that if more people build good electric cars, the whole market grows. And that's exactly what we're seeing happen right now. The car industry is shifting from secrecy to a kind of open innovation, where everyone learns from each other. This accelerates the green transition because good ideas spread faster. And if you want to survive, then it's all about just keeping up with this development. So the next time you see an electric car on the street, maybe from Xiaomi, Toyota, Volkswagen, or anyone else, you now know that it has probably drawn inspiration from a completely disassembled Tesla Model Y or Model 3 somewhere along the way. As I see it, in a time like this, when it's hard to trust your alliances, it's actually a beautiful thing, because it means that we all move faster towards better, cheaper, and more sustainable electric cars. If you found this perspective interesting, please feel free to share the episode with others who are passionate about cars and the green transition. And remember, here at Bill Podcasten, we're curious about the future of motoring and we respect each other in the comments section on our YouTube channel.